Hey everyone, you're watching We Had That, and today I'm going to talk about the 1979 Tiger Man action figure from the Buck Rogers in the 25th Century line by Mego. As a kid, this was one of my favorite figures. Unfortunately, he broke pretty early on, and I didn't get to play with him as much as I would have liked growing up. I recently picked up another one at ToyLanta, so I thought he'd be a good subject for this week's video. The figure was based on the Buck Rogers in the 25th Century movie from 1979, but the Buck Rogers character has been around for a lot longer than that. Buck Rogers was created by Philip Francis Nowland almost 100 years ago, way back in 1928. The first story to feature him was called Armageddon 2419 AD, which was published in the August 1928 issue of a pulp magazine called Amazing Stories. Buck's adventures were adapted into a syndicated comic strip starting the next year in 1929, and then Buck took his adventures to the radio in 1932. In 1939, Universal Pictures got the rights to produce a 12-chapter film serial starring Buster Crabbe. Buck Rogers was such a popular comic strip character that he inspired many other space heroes, the most famous of which was probably Flash Gordon, whose comic strip debuted in 1934. Fast forward to 1977, a little movie called Star Wars was released and reignited the popularity of space-themed movies. Universal wanted to jump on the space adventure bandwagon, so they began working on a series of made-for-TV Buck Rogers movies in 1978. The plan changed over time, and in the end, the movie Buck Rogers in the 25th Century got a theatrical release on March 30th, 1979. This movie, with a budget of about $3.5 million, grossed over $21 million in sales in North America alone. The huge success of the movie led to NBC turning Buck Rogers into a weekly series. The series began on September 20th of 1979. Both the movie and the TV show featured many of the characters from the old comic strips and serials. Of course, we had the primary protagonist, Buck Rogers, but we also had his allies Dr. Huer and Wilma Deering. Buck's most famous enemy had been Kane, also known as Killer Kane, with many appearances by the lovely villain Ardala. Although Tiger Man wasn't a specific character in the old comic strips and serials, the Tigermen of Mars appeared as enemies of Buck Rogers. In fact, the first Buck Rogers film ever, which premiered at the World's Fair back in the mid-1930s, was called Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, an interplanetary battle with the Tigermen of Mars. When the 1979 Buck Rogers movie came out, Tiger Man was the bodyguard of Princess Ardala. He was portrayed in the film by Duke Butler. According to legend, a scene needed to be reshot or possibly a new scene was needed, and they couldn't locate Butler, so a new actor, H.B. Haggerty, was brought in for the reshoots. Haggerty had been an actor on both television and in movies, and he'd also been a professional wrestler under the name Hard-Boiled Haggerty, though his real name was actually Don Stansuck. Haggerty was also the actor who appeared in the TV show in the episodes Escape from Wedded Bliss and Ardala Returns. Interestingly, in the original cut of the movie, Buck had killed Tiger Man, so the movie was re-edited for the TV release to remove that scene so that Tiger Man could return in later episodes. I mentioned before that the movie Star Wars was instrumental in allowing for numerous science fiction movies to get the funding they needed to be made. But Star Wars had an even greater influence for kids at the time. The success of Kenner's Star Wars figures led to toys being made for many movies that otherwise would probably have never had toys. The Mego Toy Company in particular released numerous toys for many properties looking for the next big thing. Although I'm not sure how well the toys for Buck Rogers actually sold in stores, the fact that 9 different figures were produced for the first and only wave was very cool. Many toy lines got only 4 or 5 figures, so it was great that we got so many Buck Rogers figures, plus vehicles and even a playset. The Mego toys were even advertised on television with a commercial. You can see how different the Tiger Man figure that was sold in stores was from the one in the commercial in this photo here. To save money, each of the Buck Rogers figures came packaged on the same card, with only the figure's name at the bottom being different. The card backs all showed the same 9 figures that were available in the line so that you would know which figures you had and which ones you still needed. I owned most of the figures as a kid. I was a big fan of the Draconian Guard, Buck Rogers, and Tweaky, but Tiger Man was easily my favorite. I think he was the first figure that I ever got from this line. Something about the character, and particularly the action figure, just struck a chord with me, and I thought he was the coolest. He had kind of a pirate biker vibe that really appealed to me. The 3 3/4-inch action figure wasn't quite as colorful as the character in the movie, and Mego had also made a 12-inch figure, which I briefly owned as an adult. It had a more colorful paint job on the face and was also a great figure, but I thought the 3 3/4-inch figure was simply amazing despite his more limited color palette. Mego managed to capture the essence of Tiger Man well without using much paint. His legs and feet were solid black. His arms, torso, and head were all skin color with only brown paint added on. And his pelvis was molded in an orange with black accents to give his shorts an animal print look. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, Tiger Man was one of the earliest casualties in my army of childhood toys. The rubber band that held him together broke, and I guess the pieces were thrown away. I still have my other childhood Buck Rogers figures, even though several of them have lost their thumbs, and Buck and Wilma have both lost their weapons. But I definitely missed Tiger Man once he was gone. I've been meaning to pick up a new Tiger Man figure for years, and when I saw this one at ToyLanta a couple of weeks ago, I was happy to pick him up and re-add him to my collection. Aside from the 12-inch and 3 3/4-inch Mego figures that were released in conjunction with the 1979 movie, there haven't been many Tiger Man figures to be released over the years. The company Zika released an amazing 9-inch Tiger Man figure in 2011, and Tiger Man was part of a 5-figure set of Mini-Mates released in 2015. Tiger Man also appeared in 2 of the 3 comic book adaptations of the movie released by Gold Key in 1979. Despite his limited appearances, I thought Tiger Man was great. If my childhood figure had survived, I imagine I would have included him with my action figure adventures up through G.I. Joe, which was the last line of toys that I actually played with. In particular, I suspect that Tiger Man would have been used as one of the Dreadnoks before their release, and probably would have remained among their ranks even after the actual Dreadnoks figures arrived in stores. I'm glad I had him for the short time I did as a kid, and it's cool that I have him once again to add to my collection. Did you have any of the Buck Rogers action figures as a kid? Do you collect them now? Which character is your favorite? Tell me in the comments below. Also, please give this video a like and share it on social media. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notifications bell so that you'll be notified when I post new videos. And one last thing. If you're a fan of toys, you should know about ToyLanta, the biggest toy show in the southeastern United States, held annually just north of Atlanta, Georgia. Visit ToyLanta.com for more information. As always, thanks for watching.